I am late. Better late than never. There is a proverb, there is a saying, better late than never. And that is why I am live streaming and I was discussing just phrase and clause, types of phrases and types of clauses. And I have already mentioned two types of clauses, principal clause and subordinate clause. Okay, principal clause and subordinate clause. Principal means main and subordinate means dependent. That depends on the principal clause to complete its meaning or to express its meaning. That's the difference. Now welcome to my channel, An Easy Step to English Grammar, and I am going to discuss Anubhav Paul. You join but you leave too early, and your examination, all other examinations are on your threshold. Then why should you join the class? Take preparation of your examinations or other papers which are knocking at your door. Yes, I am very fine. No more English study. Yes, you have already crossed the barrier of English examination, and I hope that you have done well, because all your questions were very common. And now, sir, please talk to us. Then what should I talk to you about? What should be the subject? What should be the subject? Just listen to me, and if you have any question, you may please place, and I shall try my level best to solve any kind of question on grammar. Okay, any question on grammar. Okay, sir, you love to travel. Yes, who doesn't like to travel? But at my old age, how can I afford money to travel from one end of our country to the other? Where shall I earn money? And that is why I am dealing with YouTube channel. If my channel is monetized, I will earn some money, and if I can earn money, I shall travel. Okay, and then I will give you some vlogging. Okay, however, whatever may be the cause, you see that, sir, how to remember appropriate prepositions? Oh, it's a very pertinent question. It's a very, very important question. How can we remember appropriate prepositions? It entirely depends upon your memory and some common sense. and some common sense. For example, I am giving you some examples. On hearing the sound outside my window, I went out immediately in search of something. On hearing. When there is hearing, it is gerund. And when there is gerund, you must put or place the preposition on. On hearing. Okay? Outside. Outside the window. So, I went out is phrasal verb, to look for or in search of the source of the sound. You see that I have used many prepositions in search of. It is phrase preposition or prepositional phrase. In search of the source of the sound. Okay? You see that it depends upon common sense, nothing else. On hearing the sound. Again, I am giving you some tips or formula, then I will change the topic or title tonight. For example, on a stormy night. On a stormy night. Just follow my examples and you will be benefited. On a stormy night. Stormy is an adjective, night is noun, and on is preposition. Okay? On is preposition. So when the sentence will begin with an adjective, the preposition must be on a stormy night. On the dark evening, I set out for my neighborhood village. On the dark evening. You see that dark is adjective and you are at liberty to use on. Okay. So these are the rules of using preposition. So use preposition before a gerund, use preposition before an adjective followed by a noun. Okay? Another example I am giving. For example, the Himalayas are on the north of India. The Himalayas are on the north of India. When you are using on, you see that it is touching the borderline of India and China or any other country. Okay? On the. So on is a preposition which can be used in different uses, different methods. Gerund, adjective, and when an object is touching the borderline, on. Okay? For example, there is a great burden on your shoulder. There is a great burden. For example, after the death of your father, there is a great burden on your shoulder, on your shoulder. Okay? So on is a preposition which has a great value in a sentence. Now in, there is a pen in my pocket. There is a, how to remember, if you want to use preposition, you must remember these methods. After having completed my live streaming class, when I will say goodbye, stay safe, stay mellow, why don't you just listen to the video with rapt attention again? And if you hear or if you listen to the video with rapt attention again, all these theories will be captured by you. Okay? Another example I am telling you. For example, there is a pen in my pocket. I shall carry this beautiful natural beauty in my mind, not on my mind, obviously. I shall carry this beautiful natural or scenic background in my mind. The poet carried this natural beauty in his mind in. Okay? But if you tell your friend, please come in, that means you are inviting him to come into the room. Please come in. Okay? The children are throwing stones into the river. When the action is from outside to inside, you may use into. Here lies the difference between in and into. So, what's the problem? But there are some prepositions, they are called appropriate prepositions, which must be kept in your mind in the examination hall. For example, the company did not approve of my project. The company did not approve of my project proposal. My project proposal. Okay. You see, approve of. You cannot use any other preposition after approve. Approve of. Okay. Accuse of. For example, why should you accuse your servant of theft? You should not accuse. Cope with, cope up. Okay. Cope up with. You see, cope up with. For example, with this little earning, I cannot cope up with. I cannot cope up with the present market value. Cope up with. Okay. With my little learning, I cannot cope up with the maintenance of my family. Cope up with. Okay. However, you should know that there are some prepositions which are obviously to be remembered in your examination hall. Again, for example, just cope up, cope with, cope up with. Okay, cope up with is actually not preposition. Mr. Maiti, you don't know that with is preposition, but cope up is phrasal verb. Grammar is a very delicate thing. You see that cope up is phrasal verb, but cope up with is prepositional verb, because with is preposition and cope up is phrasal verb. What is phrasal verb? Verb plus adverbial particle expresses a single meaning. For example, sit down, boso. Sit down on the bench. So on is preposition and sit down is phrasal verb. Stand up. Stand up is phrasal verb, but stand up on the bench. On is preposition. Difference. Do you like this difference? This is the difference. Okay? Just I am deviating from my point. For example, to supply something, to supply a person with a thing. For example, he supplied me with some bouquets on my marriage anniversary. He supplied me with some bouquets on my marriage anniversary. To supply a person with a thing. My friend supplied me with many costly books. My friend supplied me with many costly books for my education. To supply me with. Clear? All these are to be remembered in the examination hall. Supply with. Provide with. For example, my father provided me with many costly pens on my birthday. On my birthday, my father provided me with a costly pen on my birthday. To provide a person with a thing. How to remember preposition? You see that, my dear friend. Your act of remembering preposition depends upon your memory. Depends upon your memory. So how can I remember prepositions? When I was teaching in my classroom, my students used to ask me many questions on preposition, but I had to answer them promptly or consulting Advanced Learners Dictionary or COD, Concise Oxford Dictionary, because it was quite impossible on my part to remember all the prepositions in my mind. Okay? So there is no hard and fast rule of remembering prepositions. It entirely depends Sir, I listen your speech with rapt attention every day. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I am very proud of you. And you see that it depends upon your sharp memory. And how can you sharpen your memory? To sharpen your memory entirely depends upon constant practice. Constant practice. If you go through the Times of India or the Statesman every day, if you go through the English stories, etc., you will see that you are automatically learning the use of prepositions. Okay? For example, I have remembered a preposition. For example, the fat man entered the room. You see that I have not used any preposition. I have not used any preposition. Clear? I have, my friend entered my room and sank into my sofa. Sank, the past tense of sink. Sank into my sofa. Why do you use into? Into is a preposition. That means সে সোফার মধ্যে ডুবে গেল। Okay? The sofa is so soft and his weight is so heavy that he sank into the sofa. The author has used into the sofa. So into it actually depends upon your sense of use. Sense of use. For example, after having spent 7 years with his friend, with is a preposition. My question, what is verb? Verb is an action word. Verb is an action word. Any word that suggests any kind of action is a verb. Okay? Any word that suggests action is a verb. But there are two types of verbs. What are the verbs? Auxiliary verbs and principal verbs. Okay? Mainly. Then regular verb, irregular verb, there are many categories of verbs. But the definition of verb is that any action word is verb, and mainly you will have to categorize verb into two groups. Okay? However, whatever may be the fact, sank into the sofa. Thus, preposition can be used according to your sense. How you want to express the meaning. How you want to express the meaning. If you say the bird is sitting in the tree, it means that the bird is not visible from outside. Actually, the bird is covered with the leaves of the tree. So the bird is sitting in the tree, not on the tree. Okay? So it depends upon your sense of use. Okay? Nothing else. Preposition is not. For example, after having spent 7 years with his friend, the selfish giant came back to his garden and built a high wall around his garden. Around his garden. So around here suggests that outside wall that has covered the entire garden, around the garden. Okay? The earth moves round the sun. Round, not around. Round the sun. Okay? If you say, সূর্য পশ্চিম দিগন্তে অস্ত যাচ্ছে, The sun is gradually setting in the western horizon. In the western horizon. Okay. So there are many ways of remembering prepositions in the examination hall, but the main fact is that your memory is your asset. Your memory is your asset. If your memory works well, your preposition will also work well. Okay, I will give some at least 100 prepositions one day. Possibly tomorrow I shall give you 100 prepositions. I shall be online at 10:30. Okay, I promise. Good night. Stay safe, stay well tonight. And I am ending my discussion tonight. And my tonight's title should be Use of Preposition. Thanking all of you. If you like this video, please like, comment, share, and don't forget to subscribe. This is my request, nothing else.